What do we need to know about the energies for the week of August 25th through the 31st? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot, Astrology, and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, promoting the channel on your own social media platforms. It's all greatly, greatly appreciated. I am starting a membership on my Scrying Out Loud channel, in which we're going to do videos like this one, but on a day-to-day basis. So if you're interested in joining that membership, the details or the link will be in the description of this video. Okay, so the week of the 24th through the 31st, this feels like kind of a crazy week. It feels like a huge wanting for change week. Um, but also a waiting for change week. And I guess what I mean by that is we're all, not all, but a lot of us are going to be wanting change, but we kind of know it's coming. So there's also this waiting game. So it's a little bit of an uncomfortable energy. I think you know, every day is going to be slightly different. As it kind of always is, but in particular this week, I think there's going to be days of really heavy anxiety. That's the way it feels. I think there's some global events too that also um, maybe change our perspective a little bit or deepen our determination um, for change to happen, which brings that waiting game from not just waiting but into the anxiety realm. So Uh, it's definitely a mixed week of ups and downs and bumps in the road kind of week. I think there's a mixture also of a little bit of sadness. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be good parts of the week because there are good parts of every week and there are sad parts of every week. That's just the way, life works. But this in particular, I feel like there's going to be like almost a either the starting of a grieving process or um, in the middle of a grieving process. Now, I think for most of the collective, we're already there in the middle of the grieving process. I just think it's more prevalent this week. So let's start out with some oracle cards, and then we'll move to the tarot, and then we'll end with some more oracle cards. So, what do we need to know for this week? It feels like a big week. The day-to-day energies are going to be kind of all over the map, is what it feels like to me. But the overall themes, I think, are this wanting and waiting for change. And then, when that wanting turns into a sense of urgency, that's when the anxiety sets in. So, definitely some people here worried about the end of the month stuff. What do we need to know? This is right. The animal guardian, trust your intuition. I think that's going to be super important this week in particular of just knowing your limits. Now, certainly, I don't want to encourage anybody to be a recluse or an extrovert or an introvert. You are who you are. I certainly don't want to change that. But I do think that we could benefit from really trusting our intuition. If our intuition is telling us to stay in today or tonight or whatever day of the week it is, uh, maybe we're supposed to, you know, if it's not an absolute obligation and it's okay to take a break, maybe that's it. Because maybe it might not even be about that particular day, is what I'm getting. It's more like saving up the energy for the days that are going to be a little bit more hectic. Almost preparing for the more. draining, energetically draining days. You know, for some others, this is actually really a practical card of trusting your intuition when it comes to, um, you, especially auto insurance and house insurance. I keep getting this all this month. I don't know if a bunch of people's are renewing this month. You might want to shop around. You just might want to shop around. It feels like a lot of you are not getting the best deal, or the best bang for your buck. Again, not a financial advisor, not that, but it does feel like there's some companies out there that are just, that maybe you've been with for 10 years that are just expecting you to renew, and really they're overcharging you. So, um, and the druid hold this space. I think this is exactly right, of taking this space at this time, at this moment, and allowing our bodies to adjust to the energies around us. And if that brings up feelings of wanting or waiting or anxiety or sadness, that is the right emotion for that time. It doesn't mean that it's comfortable. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be easier to grab our phones and distract us. Um, but it does feel like it's important for a growth pattern that's going to develop over the next several months as we move into a different, global energy. So I think it's preparing us as for that. So, setting with your energy, that's going to be a tough one. And then we get the stag spirit, trust and thrive. Um, yeah, I do think, deepening your spiritual practices, deepening your spiritual commitment, um, devoting some time to meditation. Now, this doesn't mean that, we're sitting quietly for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. This might just be 2 minutes, right? It might just be a 2 minute, get in the car after work or after shopping, turn on the AC, and maybe you just sit there for 2 minutes before you pull out of the parking spot. It could be just as simple as that. Um, and then trust your intuition, especially with the animal guardian here, and trust that life is heading towards this thriving stage. We're currently in a survival mode. That's just the way it is. It's that the global energies are presenting us, and there's not really, for a lot of us, especially those of us that are really paying attention to the world, we're not really able to get into that thriving phase. We're surviving rather than thriving. And but that's going to change. It all sort of shifts in the as we get into autumn, and then, especially by the time we get to winter, I think it's already happened. So yeah, some difficult energies. It's the cards are pretty much saying what I was feeling. I think I'm going to use a different deck this week. This is the Unveiled Tarot. It's a little bit more complex, has a lot more imagery in it. Um, what do we need to know for the week of the 23rd through the 31st? 23rd, or sorry, the 25th through the 31st of August. What do we need to know? What do we need to know? Yeah, we're definitely going to need those 2 minutes, every once in a while this week. Whether it's 2 minutes before we leave the house, getting prepared to do something, just to take 2 minutes just to breathe and, um, enjoy the rhythm of our breath. Rhythm and pattern is what the body likes when it wants to relax. And when that rhythm is disrupted, That's when we can get into these anxiety feelings. Not that it's bad, because, emotions are emotions. No one's better than the other. Some just feel easier to deal with. Okay, this feels right. Do you feel like there's a lot of shopping that needs to be done this week that's been being put off for quite a while? Um, and it's going to be that way for a lot of people, so I think the shops are going to be quite hectic. So just be aware of that, especially if you're buying stuff for kids or grandkids for back to school. Um, we get the Ace of Cups. It's a new reality that we're all adjusting to, and that doesn't mean it's pleasant. It doesn't mean it's something that we want. It just means it is. So, I mean, the hand holding the cup here is coming up from a wave. Waves can be, really soothing if they're in rhythm, right? The rhythm of the wave crashing against the rock is a soothing sound. But if the waves aren't in rhythm because of a storm or whatever, it can be quite a scary sound. So I think that's why I was getting this idea of the rhythm of your breath being so important, to be able to maintain. Now, that takes practice. When people get anxious, their breathing speeds up. That's just normal. But if you can maintain the rhythm, sometimes you can bring yourself not necessarily out of anxiety, but definitely from keeping anxiety from turning into panic, right? Which I do think is important. Um, we get the death card in the environment around. This also goes with those big themes. We're getting close to that thriving stage, but the cycle really hasn't ended yet. Um, but it's going to. And so we're waiting for the cycle to end. We're wanting it to end. And it's this kind of just at moments uncomfortable feeling. Now, when we're doing our day-to-day tasks like the dishes and vacuuming and stuff like that, we feel more comfortable. So using healthy outlets like, just tasks around the house, um, staying on top of or getting ahead of the work you have to do at work, or whether you're retired or working, whatever it is that you're passionate about, getting um, some of the more mundane things out of the way so that you can enjoy the time, I think is going to be super, super important this week. And we get the Six of Pentacles. Yeah, this is about the shopping, giving and receiving of money. A lot of us have put off shopping. Um, in particular, put off shopping around groceries and school supplies, and just a couple people that I don't know if somebody's getting ready to take a trip or something and you haven't bought clothes in like years. Um, so we have to go clothes shopping. Um, it's not something we want to do. That's why we put it off for years, but we have to do it. I certainly can relate to this as well. I don't like to shop. Um, so there's that. Also, I think this, repayments of loans and debts. Somebody's going to do some sort of debt consolidation here to save some money. There is money to be saved this week. I'm going to do a manifestation video later this week, but um, money saved is money earned, right? The famous saying from, or penny saved is penny earned. I think that's Benjamin Franklin, right? Um, that's why calling about those car insurance things, maybe debt consolidation. Obviously, follow your own financial journey. I'm not telling you what to do here or giving advice. It does feel like there's some money to be saved. The Empress card, family is going to be on the first of four. I mean, family is going to be a big focus of this week. And it's not just people that have passed over, but that's certainly part of it. It's people in the present day, which we interact with regularly, but it's also generations that haven't come yet that we're just going to be worrying about. We're worrying about what the future holds for them. There's just a couple people here waiting for a grandkid to arrive. I don't necessarily think that happens this week, but it's getting close. And that's exciting. So that newness of yeah, it's going to be great. I think there's like 4 or 5 of you that are waiting for that. Yeah, and if you're, you know, in a relationship and you're wanting to have a child, this is also probably a good week if you want that to happen. Now, a lot of people are not wanting that to happen because it's just kind of overwhelmed with the world and they're not really sure that they're wanting to start a family right now. If you're not wanting to start a family right now, just be careful because this is going to be a highly fertile month or highly fertile week for a lot of you. The Four of Pentacles is at the center. This is stability. This is what we long for, right? This is what we're waiting for. This is what we're wanting. We're just wanting an energy where everything is predictable, where everything is, well, maybe not everything, but most things, the big things are predictable. And then whatever curveballs life throws at us will be easier to deal with because we're not worried about, uh, changes in finance or changes in what's going on in the world. So, I mean, I think that's at the center of the reading. I think it's perfect. I think it makes a ton of sense. Uh, and then we get the Queen of Pentacles. This is a lot of nurturing here. Um, yeah, those of you expecting a grandchild in particular, you're waiting for it to come, you're wanting stability, and then you're trying to figure out how to be a nurturer for both your son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law, and or whatever combination thereof. It feels like you almost feel like you're the only one planning for this child to come, which is a bit ironic. I don't think that's true, but it does feel like that. So it feels a little bit overwhelming. Um, and the Page of Wands messages coming forward. It's an uphill slog this week. It's hard to get our footing. Here the image is the person rappelling down the mountain or climbing up the mountain, depending upon your perspective. But the rope in the middle is actually just a wand, which may or may not be stable. So there's a lot of proceeding with caution, which is why we're in that survive and not thrive phase, right? It's perfectly fine. It's just can be uncomfortable at times. If you're not sleeping well, um, that's pretty normal. We're getting closer to the eclipses, right? We just had the new moon um, on Saturday or Friday, depending upon where you are in the world. Um, and there's a newness to it for sure. And that's where this wanting is coming from, and this waiting and this knowing things are going to improve thing. That's where it's coming from. But the next the full moon, that'll be an eclipse, and then the next new moon after that, that'll be an eclipse. And sleeping around eclipse season can be just thrown off. So if you're not sleeping about it, obviously if it's really severe, talk to somebody. Um, but it's pretty normal. So particularly like waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning, if you're not used to it, um, it's pretty normal in this type of environment energetically. It's actually kind of a good sign that you should be manifesting. Um, so There is also this possibility, and I think I talked about this during the new moon reading, that there's a lot of illness flying around the country that's not being documented or talked about. And I'm sure this is in the world as well. So make sure you're taking precautions, boosting your immune system, especially if you have to get on an airplane this week, um, or you take the bus, things, or you're going shopping. There is a lot of COVID around, for example, in the United States in particular. So um, do be aware of that as well. And the Ten of Wands, it does feel like we're just marching one by one, like the ants in the picture, except for everybody else is carrying what they're supposed to be carrying, which is food and nourishment, and we're carrying burdens. So we look around, and sometimes I think it feels like we're the only ones that feel this heavy burden, and everybody else is just going through their day-to-day lives as if things are normal. But that's really not true for a lot of people. Yes, there are 50% of, especially in the United States, that are just tuned out to the world, no cares in the world, have no idea what's going on. It might not be as high as 50%, by the way. That's just a random number I picked. But um, you're not the only one marching here carrying burdens rather than nourishment. So um, that can be a little bit of a relief, just knowing that you're not alone. And I think that's part of the point of why I started this channel, in addition to the Scrying Out Loud channel, is so that we can look at these things and not have anxiety provoking things. So the Scrying Out Loud channel is very political. The membership, by the way, to the Scrying Out Loud channel is not going to be political at all. So if you're interested in that, please do check it out. But um, we need reprieves. So I've been posting some meditation videos, popular or not, they're there for the people that need them. And I think it's important that we're able to center ourselves, even if just for a moment, to realize that these burdens that we're carrying, they're not our individual burdens a lot of the times, they're global burdens. And that's because we are the people that can manifest and can put out healing energy into the world. And that can be quite overwhelming. And you might just now be discovering this is something that is going on for you. So um overall, big picture, the rhythm of our breath, the rhythm of waves crashing against rocks, the rhythm of thunderstorms, even they're a little bit chaotic. These are the things that are going to bring us comfort. Um, so if you want some noise in the background while you're doing things, even if it doesn't have to be, thunderstorms or waves crashing or anything like that. It can just be your favorite TV show in the background that you're not paying attention to because you know the rhythm of it already because you've seen it over and over again. So I think that the rhythm is important because I think the rhythm creates the stability, which helps us deal with the fact that we're carrying all of these burdens and we feel like the people around us aren't. They just aren't. Now that's not necessarily true, but that's just how we feel. It does feel like a precarious climb or descent. Um, that's why we're wanting stability, and we realize that it's a give and take in the world to get stability. And then in the environment around, we have the death card. This is really the wanting and the waiting for the end of this cycle to happen. It does happen. That's why we got that trust and thrive um, oracle card. It does happen. So I think we need to, if we can, just maintain faith that it happens. We don't get to pick the timeline, unfortunately. We just have to go with it. I do think there's some sleep disruption this week, and especially heading into the eclipses. I also do think that there's some illness flying around. So do take precautions there. Um, if you are about to become a grandmother again or grandfather again, um, it does feel like you're the one preparing for the stability and preparing to be the nurturer. I don't think that's entirely true, by the way. I think uh, your children are also doing that. Um, but it's a fertile week, so if you're not wanting to start a family, just know that. Um, and if you're expecting uh, a child or a grandchild, just know that you're going to know how to be a mother. You're going to know how to be a grandmother, especially if it's your first time. There feels to be somebody's waiting there for that, and the nurturer part of the Queen of Pentacles as well. It's going to be a very kind of defensive time, but there's also a lot of reason to hope and pray and have faith and or follow whatever spiritual dogma you wish to follow. Here, I do think prayer can be quite beneficial. Prayers for us, not for the people we're praying for. Although I do think it does help. It's really an act for ourselves to make ourselves more comfortable with the situation of what's going on. And this is also just another symbolism that, you know, this waiting period is going to come to an end. We're just going to have to live through it, and there's really no other choice. So all in all, it feels like a reasonably decent week with moments of uncomfortableness. So yeah, let's start some oracle cards here from the Animal Oracle deck. Just to finish this off, I think we're supposed to pull 5 cards. Yeah, 5. Let's see. This feels right. Yeah, we get the wasp spirit. This is a tough one. Sometimes life stings. Sometimes it does. Um, life isn't just a steady uphill climb into more and more happiness. That's just not the way it works. So there's all these detours, but we need to trust that the detours are there for a reason. And, it's okay to be angry at the universe. The universe can handle it. Whether you want to call it universe, spirit, source, God, it doesn't matter. They can handle our frustration. Um, so don't feel guilty about that for some of you. Take time out. This is what I was saying. Like, if you're feeling the need of staying home one day and you have the ability to stay home without consequences, follow that intuition and take time out. Take those 2 minutes in the car, whether it's when you get in the car to go home or whether it's when you're in the driveway and you're taking 2 minutes before going in the house because, there's other people in the house, or whether it's, taking a bath or um, a shower, even just taking those extra 2 minutes to breathe and feel the rhythm of your breath because the rhythm of the breath is going to be so important. That's part of the reason why I started the meditation series. The turtle spirit, slow and steady wins the race. Again, this is this wanting and waiting energy that just is the week. It's a wanting and waiting. There's going to be moments of sadness and anxiety. Uh, but we're heading in the right direction. And I think that's so important to know. Now, just because we're heading in the right direction doesn't mean that there's not setbacks, because there are. There definitely are setbacks along this journey, but we're heading in the right direction. And this is a really tough energy. I had a feeling this might come up. The flamingo spirit, um, embrace the in between. So here we are. Here's the finish line, or what we're perceiving as the finish line. Obviously, there is no finish line, but um, that waiting period is the in between part we don't want to wish our days away, right? We don't want to, constantly be like, oh, I can't wait till this is over, because we're just wishing our days away. Um, Now this is a tough, tough energy, embracing the in between. It just is. Change is hard, and when change is slow, it's harder. So, and when change is so slow that we can't see the day-to-day benefits of it, it's even harder. And that's really where we are. So, embrace the in between if you can. And then the antelope spirit, know that things are speeding up. We are heading in the right direction. We really, really are. So, yeah, I hope you have a great week. If you're interested in memberships on the Scrying Out Loud channel, that'll be in the description below, where we're going to do daily looks at the world, the US, and some cards for the collective, um, to hopefully help navigate the day-to-days, especially in the weeks that are really, really crazy like this one. So where there's lots of ups, lots of downs, we'll get through it, have no doubt, but that's just the way it's going to be. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.